So by 2014, I had spent years pushing people away. Not intentionally. I mean, at least not in a way that I understood at that time. But every relationship I had ever been in, I destroyed. Why? Because my subconscious had already decided. People leave. Love isn't safe. If I don't let anyone get too close, then they can't hurt me whenever they leave. And because the brain's number one job is protection, it created patterns to confirm this belief. So I cheated, I tested people, I pushed them away just to see if they would come back. And if they didn't, my subconscious said, see, people always leave. I've been playing this game my whole life. And then I met her. She was different. But my brain, it didn't know how to handle different, because when you've been abandoned, neglected, and emotionally numb for years, love doesn't feel safe. It feels like a threat. But my wife, she didn't just show up as someone who cared about me. She showed up as somebody who saw me. And that, at that time, subconsciously, that was terrifying. When you spent your whole life hiding behind self-destruction, being seen feels exposing. When you've built an identity on pushing people away and people leaving, when someone stays, it feels wrong. And when you've told yourself for years, subconsciously, that you don't deserve love, real love feels like a mistake. And I'll rewind. There was a time years before when I was in a relationship and my girlfriend at the time looked at me and asked me, why won't you just let me love you? And that was a poignant question, but I didn't have an answer. The answer was, I don't know how. But it was a very wise question on her part that I would never understand until years later when I started dissecting my life. So when my wife came around and she showed me this love and she saw me and all this, what did I do? Did I just welcome it and say, oh, thank you for seeing me? Nope. Tried to sabotage it. I was disrespectful. I pushed her buttons. I told her to leave. Told her I didn't want her there. This all happened one night in my apartment. And I was just being disrespectful, trying to kick her out of my apartment. And I expected her to walk out. I expected the same thing to happen that had happened from the entirety of my life in relationships. I was going to sabotage this one. She was going to leave. It was going to reaffirm that people that love you, they don't really love you because they're going to leave. Despite the fact you're being an absolute and you're being incredibly difficult to deal with. I take all of that. Like the people that left, I would have left too. I made it nearly impossible to stay until I met my wife. I'm doing the same exact thing, trying to sabotage this relationship, trying to kick her out, make her leave, and she refused. She looked me in the eyes and she says, I'm not leaving. And I went at it again. You need to leave. I don't want you here, blah, 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 cussing you out, disrespecting her, all this stuff. She looked at me in the eyes. She said, I'm not leaving because I know who you are right here. And this is not you. I was dumbfounded, to say the least. I was speechless, didn't know what to say, because I loved her too, but subconsciously, I was trying to sabotage this thing to protect myself for, whatever the brain does to, make sure that you're safe. And she told me that. She stood her ground, God bless her, and she didn't leave. That was the catalyst that put the crack in every self-destructive, self-sabotaging relationship behavior I'd had previously. For the first time in my life, the sabotage failed. The test didn't work. I pushed, and someone actually stayed. And this shattered something in me. I remember being dumbfounded in that moment because it had never happened before. And I loved her, but I was still dealing with all these subconscious programs that were just sabotaging everything and destroying everything. Psychologically, this was a major disruption to my belief system. And thank God for it. The disruption was like, if love isn't safe, why didn't she leave? If people always abandon me, then why is she staying? If I don't deserve love, then why does she see something in me? You see, my subconscious had spent my entire life confirming my fear of abandonment. But now, thanks to the love and stubbornness of my wonderful wife, all of that was being directly challenged. And when the brain is confronted with evidence that contradicts its core belief, that's when transformation can begin. Now, this wasn't an overnight fix. I didn't suddenly become healed. I didn't suddenly feel safe in relationships. But this was the first crack in the foundation of my self-destruction and my sabotaging relationships. Because healing begins when you experience something that contradicts your trauma. When you grow up feeling invisible, when you start feeling seen, it starts rewiring you. When you believe that love isn't safe, being loved unconditionally challenges that belief. And when you assume that people always leave, when someone stays, it forces your brain to reassess that belief. This is what's called corrective emotional experience. It's when you have an experience that directly challenges the beliefs that were created by trauma. And when this happens, the brain is forced to make a choice. Double down on the old beliefs and reject the new experience, or you start opening up to the possibility that those beliefs aren't absolute truth. And even though I wasn't ready to let go of my past beliefs yet, a shift had taken place. And that's why I have always said that that moment was the catalyst. Because for the first time, I had to consider, maybe love isn't a trap. Maybe not everyone leaves. Maybe I am worth staying for. But even after that moment, I still struggled. I still had one foot out and one foot in. Still afraid of getting too close, still afraid of something that seemed too good to be true. And eventually, my sweet, wonderful wife, even then, she had enough. She took the chance, she stayed, and I was still fighting those self-sabotaging beliefs. So one night she looked at me and she said, either commit or I'm done. I can't keep doing this. Now, my old pattern would have said, this is your way out. It's time to run. This is a trap. She's going to leave eventually. You're not capable of commitment. You're just going to mess this up anyway. You're going to break her heart again. It's safer to walk away now before she hurts you later. But this time, something in me had shifted. And everything in my body told me, Jonathan, get your shit together and make this work. And so I did. For the first time in my life, I chose love instead of sabotage. And even now, even today, years later, it's the greatest decision I've ever made in my entire life. And that was the first time that I had ever broken the cycle. I had always let fear dictate my choices. But now, I wasn't waiting for it to leave. I was choosing to stay. I wasn't letting trauma make my decisions, and I wasn't self-sabotaging. I was trusting, even though it was terrifying and brand new, frankly. And this is the key to healing. You don't heal by waiting for your past to stop affecting you. You heal by making different choices, even though your past is screaming at you not to. And this wasn't only about my wife. This was about me finally deciding that I deserved love, but that I could not have seen without her help, without her staying, without her seeing who I really was, who I wanted to be. And once I made that choice, that's when my entire healing journey began. Now understand this. If you spend a lifetime, like me, pushing people away, if you've convinced yourself that love isn't safe, if you've just been trapped in cycles of distrust, self-sabotage, here's what I want you to know. Healing starts when you allow yourself to experience something different. When you stop testing people and start trusting them. When you stop assuming that love is a lie and start allowing yourself to accept it. It's not easy. This isn't easy. Your brain's gonna fight it. Your trauma's gonna resist it. But healing, it doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you decide, I'm willing to trust even though it's terrifying. I am open to love even if it's unfamiliar to me. And I'm worthy of connection even if I don't fully believe it yet. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about what happens when you finally make the choice to heal. How old patterns, they try to pull you back, but how you have to keep moving forward. Because breaking the cycle, that's just the beginning. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you haven't already, hit the like button, that thumbs up, subscribe. If you haven't, hit the bell notification so you'll know when the next one of these episodes drops. Thank you so much. As always, make good choices, and I'll see you on the next one.